Hello, I'm Kristen Deemer from Training Services New South Wales and the New South Wales Department of Industry, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. Today we'll be looking at how to address the selection criteria for a New South Wales Training Awards nomination and the individual awards categories. I'll be joined shortly by our presenter Fran Kane, but before we get underway, there are just a few technical and housekeeping matters for those of you who are joining us live. For members of our live audience who require technical assistance with this webinar, please contact Redback Support on the number shown on the chat pod on your screen. We are also recording this webinar and will make it available on the New South Wales Training Awards section of the Training Services New South Wales website and the New South Wales Training Awards Facebook page. We'll provide you with those URL details later on during this session. Please take the opportunity at any time during the webinar to ask questions by typing in the chat facility at the bottom of your screen. We'll endeavour to answer as many of these questions as we can at the end of the presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, don't forget there is a frequently asked questions section on our website which may have the answer to your question. But please feel free to get in touch with our New South Wales Training Awards team if you cannot find the answer you're looking for. Again, we'll have those contact details for you later on in this session. This webinar will cover how to ensure the quality of your New South Wales Training Awards nominations and give your nomination the best chance. Firstly, we'll look at why you should consider nominating an outstanding vet student, apprentice or trainee for an individual category award. We'll then address some of the general points to bear in mind when preparing and submitting your nominations. The main focus of this session, however, will be how to address the various selection criteria for the individual awards categories. Our speaker today is Fran Kane, who'll go through the criteria in terms of what the judges are looking for in each instance, with some examples of the types of information you should include in your submission to meet these criteria. Fran has a background in public relations, communications and business writing. Over the years, she has written many award-winning nominations for the New South Wales Training Awards, as well as for other awards such as the New South Wales Export Awards, Premier's Public Sector Awards and Telstra Businesswomen's Awards. Following on from the presentation itself, we'll touch on a few further technicalities around the awards, such as how to make a submission and the judging process before looking at the questions that you've sent in. The New South Wales Training Awards are about recognising the best of vocational education and training, or VET, in New South Wales, and are the premier VET awards in the state. For individuals, the awards provide a unique opportunity to celebrate their achievement with their employer and training provider. Nominating an individual for an award can open many doors for both the student and the employer and/or training provider. The benefits of a successful nomination for students include a lifelong achievement which can be listed on their resume, gaining exposure which can lead to new career opportunities, and representing their employer and training organisation in the wider community and possibly even at state level. Networking opportunities, raising your organisation's profile in your community and showcasing your organisation's commitment to vocational education are just a few of the potential benefits for training providers and employers who choose to nominate an individual for an award. So we strongly urge you to take advantage of the benefits on offer by nominating an exceptional vet student, apprentice or trainee who is in training with you for one of our individual awards categories. Now I'd like to hand over to Fran, who will take you through today's main topic.
Good morning, everybody. First up, I wanted to start with the things to consider. This is around, I really urge you to start early, making sure that you allow time to write and review. Next is about covering your bases. Check the selection criteria and conditions of entry. But most importantly, the nominations are around, I'm getting my slides got to work out how to move my slides on. Sorry about this, guys. Apologies. Technical hitch already. Oh, I've got it. Oh. Apologies, everybody. We'll get better at this. So most importantly, the nomination's about telling your story, creating a picture of the nominee. Tell us about what makes them outstanding, demonstrate their passion, the barriers they have overcome, about the impact the nominee is making at work, the workplace, in the community. These awards are about the whole person. It's not about just the best marks. I realise that many of you are actually, like I did, writing a nomination on behalf of an individual. It is really important that if you are doing that you not only interview them, but you get to know their teachers, their supervisors and referees, because each of those people will be able to give you some sort of gem that you'll be able to use in that nomination. And ensure that the nominee is on board and gets to be involved as much as possible, so that you ensure that the actual nomination is in their voice. It's not just a bureaucratic way of talking about that person. When preparing for this nomination, I spoke to many judges, and all of them mentioned the importance of using plain English in writing the submission. It's about being clear and concise. It's about the quality and not the quantity. So please just make every sentence count. Also, it is okay to use dot points. The other thing, judges consistently mentioned that they wanted concrete examples. Please avoid using just, she is a great leader. It's just really generic and it's not strong. An example would be, she's a great leader because she listens to her team, she holds herself accountable, and she makes a positive impact at work. It's important also to avoid using jargon and acronyms. You can't assume that judging panel actually understand your industry and know all the ins and outs of it. Attachments do play their role, and think about how they can add to that picture. Then the final check. I think for me, the important thing is to get someone else to read through that nomination. Not only to proofread it, but to check that you actually have covered all the criteria and use some really good examples. There are two techniques you could use when addressing the selection criteria when you're writing those examples. There's the SOA, or the STAR technique. And on the screen you can see what those elements are. I'm sure most of you are aware of them, but I just wanted to remind people that it is around having a situation, having an action, having an outcome, or if you use the STAR, it's a situation, task, action and result. So they're good things to remember when clarifying that. Now I've gone backwards. Okay, so preparing your nomination. This is the main part of today's presentation, and with the individual awards there's 4 criteria. So I hope that all of you have the nomination criteria information in front of you. As I plan to go through each criteria, I'll use the consider things such as and flesh out each of these with what the judges might be looking for in types of evidence and give some examples of what they might be. So please remember that this is only a guide, it's not a definitive list. I'm sure that you could also find other examples and evidence that you can think of for each criteria. So in criteria 1, the career and study achievements. Any personal and career gains you have achieved. What the judges are looking for is what you've gained through your studies or training so far. What have been your key achievements? What are your long-term and short-term study and career goals? So as examples like your high grades, additional studies undertaken, high-level skills developed, additional skills developed, or any other awards you might be shortlisted or won. So a previous winner's example is, I enjoyed every aspect of the course. The highlight would have been when my design was selected by a client for a class brief. It was our individual project, our first individual project, where I competed against 20 others. Then, as a class, we made and built the stage concept, and I had to lead and direct that project to ensure my vision became reality. As you can see, it really described something, and it made it interesting reading for the judges, and also gave that bit more vision about that particular individual. Another part of criteria 1 is how you can demonstrate your understanding of the value of VET. The judges are looking for how your studies have affected the view of yourself, your career goals, your personal goals, your expectations of yourself, the way you relate to others, your view of the world. How important the VET course is for your industry, your career pathway, or your workplace. So examples of your capabilities as a result of your training is what you've undertaken. How you have or how you plan to apply those capabilities in your future career. So a previous winner's example is, during my studies, I made my mission to be an integral member of every opportunity possible. As a mature age student, I felt I had a certain degree of responsibility to interact professionally, guide the younger classmates, to mentor them and empower them to develop. In other words, I didn't want to dominate and overshadow their learning, plus I knew that it was important for each of us to contribute so we could learn from each other. Sorry, gone too far quickly. How have you integrated the on and off the job training and what benefits this has held? So the judges are looking for, how is your training off the job, that is the classroom and the workshop, your study, your books, your assessments, benefited you in the workplace? Is it important to have time out to learn about your industry? So what they're meaning is they want types of examples of on and off the job that you've done and how they complement each other. So a previous win's example is, my studies provided me with enough confidence for my skills to make a start in the industry. While studying, I worked as a freelance props and art director. This work gave me the opportunity to learn and participate in the industry and apply my skills learnt in my studies on real projects. To be part of those companies, I was able to work with professionals, I was treated equal, and I was able to contribute in a meaningful way. Again, you can see the picture that's been developing on that individual. So with this criteria, the evidence is slightly different for the school-based apprentice trainee and the VET in school students, as they're still at school and most of them would be undertaking work placements and not actually in paid employment. So instead of talking about their work opportunities, you're talking about their work placement opportunities and the skills they learnt, the reasons that they chose the course, and how the course is assisting them in their employment, their career opportunities and their training plans. So the judges are looking for explaining why they decided to undertake their course while they're still at school, describe the advantages of taking on training while at school, and again, definitely the short and long-term goals is something that they would be interested in knowing about. So that's criteria 1. I hope that was a help, and we'll move on to criteria 2. Criteria 2 is around communication, team and leadership skills, the skills you've developed through training. So the first one is about effective oral and written communication. The judges are looking for the ways in which you communicate and why it is effective communication is important. This is where you could give an example of where you've used your communication skills effectively during your training or in the workplace, which resulted in a positive outcome. Again, the previous winner's example is part of the daily duties. I regularly manage subcontractors and organise tools and materials. There's been an occasion when subcontractors have not turned up, and in this circumstance, I had to contact them and the supervisor to successfully make another arrangement. I believe my training helped me build up my communication skills and make me confident to do this role. The next one is around your level of self-reliance and resilience in times of challenge. So the judges are really looking for, have you been in a situation where you've been challenged? How did you overcome these challenges? How have the skills and knowledge you've gained during your training helped you deal with these challenges? They really do want to get to know you if you've had some sort of barrier and you've overcome that barrier, either before even undertaking the training or during the training or at the end. So it's, again, like I said, it's about giving the whole picture of the individual. They really want to get to know that person and to see the whole person, as I mentioned before. So here you could give an example of a situation where you're challenged. What was that barrier overcome? And don't assume people understand the whole ins and outs, so describe the barrier. And it's important not to be shy. If it's something that is really, really personal, then they'll make sure that that statement's not in anything externally used in promotional, but use it to for judging purposes only, for them to really understand. But it's, you know, how the skills you learnt in training helped you overcome this. The next is around effective team participation. So the judges are looking for what kind of team member are you? What networks, groups, clubs are you part of? And what are the benefits of being part of a team? So here you could give an example of a time when you're involved in a team. This could be at work, in the community, or for a club, and how you work together in a team to achieve an outcome. The next one in criteria 2 is around leadership and promotion of your training, industry and other things you're involved in. So the judges are looking for, in what areas of your life do you demonstrate leadership qualities? How are you setting an example at work, in your studies or in the community? So that example I mentioned earlier, where the student was leading a project, could be used in this criteria and a different one in the earlier one. So you don't want to double up, so you need to think of different things and what are the strongest criteria to use each time in each element. So you might come up with a whole range of different concrete examples and then work out where the best place to put them are in each of the submissions. For this example, you really want to be able to talk about how you led the group, how you took a leadership role on a project or initiative where your skills were used and you gained a positive outcome. As I mentioned before, it could be at work, in the community, or in sports. So a previous winner's example. An example of my leadership was when I was given the opportunity to mentor a first-year apprentice. It was my responsibility to show the apprentice how to complete the work in a correct way and help him through the challenges. It was a rewarding experience for me to see them grow in confidence and build their skills. In criteria 2, it's your capacity also to be an effective ambassador for your industry, community, and in Australia. So the judges are looking for, why would you be a good ambassador for your industry, community, and Australia? And have you had any opportunities to act in an ambassadorial role? I know this one's a tough one sometimes, but really it is around the qualities you see an ambassador do and what types of things ambassadors undertake. And that really is about being a representative for your industry. If you don't know all the ins and outs of your industry, that's not what they want. It's around your personality and how you'll achieve that ambassador role and what you think is important when you're in those sort of situations about representing your industry. So here you could give an example how, if you had the opportunity, how you would promote your industry and how you would encourage others to undertake your studies. A previous winner's example is, I enjoy sharing my amazing experiences I've had. When I address young audiences, I encourage students to consider the trade pathways by promoting the benefits and opportunities that currently exist in my industry. Each time I present, it is an honour, and I feel that is a developmental opportunity for my presentation skills. And that's the end of criteria 2. So criteria 3 is about the ability to represent the national training system at a broader level. Something's gone wrong with the slide. Woohoo! We've gone out of control and you can't see anything else. So it makes it interesting, doesn't it? We'll have to fix it up before we load this onto the website. Apologies for that. So this is around any knowledge or understanding you've gained in the new developments and trends of the workplace or industry in the vocational training system. So the judges are looking for, why is skills training important to Australia? What are some of the initiatives taking place locally and nationally to promote and encourage training? And why is your industry important? Has it gone through any changes and developmental changes? So I know sometimes this is really hard for the individuals when they're really just in their course and they're just starting out and they don't really know all the ins and outs. So we're not asking them to give us something that's textbook from the website. It's about their understanding and all what they know. So a previous winner's example is, the trade I'm involved in is constantly evolving. It provides technological advances that are both challenging and exciting. I believe it is extremely important to keep up to date. If we don't know how to correctly repair, identify or replace vital safety parts of the vehicle, we're not providing a safe or proper service for the people trusting us. Also, by continual learning, I believe a person is more effective, striving to be the best and are able to grow within their job. So as you can see, they didn't say that they knew everything about the trends, but they showed that they had an understanding of what was important and why. So it's a really nice example without going into too much detail. Again, we've gone haywire with our criteria 3. It must be criteria 3 because it's such an exciting criteria. Only joking, Training New South Wales. This is about any messages you might have that could encourage others who are interested in entering the training pathway. So again, this crosses over that ambassadorial role, but again, it's an opportunity to show different examples. So the judges are looking for what's been good about your training, what opportunities have you had to tell others about the training, and why would you recommend your training pathway to others. So it's a bit different to the ambassadorial role, but again, it's around giving examples of what you might say to someone considering following your training pathway. And this is based on your experiences and your achievements and opportunities that you've had. So again, it's the personal story. So criteria 4 is around other pursuits. So other pursuits is your achievements in areas other than study and work. The judges are looking for what things are you involved in outside of work and study? What achievements are you proud of outside of work and study? Is there anything you've learned in your training that has helped you in other areas of your life? So this is a great opportunity to list all the passions and interests outside of work and study and all the types of achievements you had. As I mentioned before, we are really looking for someone who's the whole person. It's not the person with the best marks, but it's somebody who helps run a team or has always put back in the community by doing a whole lot of things. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but everything can add up. So it's really looking for all those different ideas that are possible. So here's a previous winner's example. I recently participated in a Rotary Youth Leadership Camp. It was a 7-day intensive residential camp where I gained practical skills. Through networking with like-minded young people, I've been invited to be a team facilitator in future projects. So again, they showed what they got out of the actual activity, and it wasn't necessarily a long explanation of what they gained. Your involvement in the community. So the judges are looking for how you give back to your community, in the family or even in the workplace. How is your training helping you in other areas of your life? And how has your involvement in other pursuits helped you along your training pathway? So a previous winner's example is I participated in the world's greatest shave day, raising $6,000 for leukemia research, which was a very proud time for me. It showed my friends and family how to act and help others, and that's an important thing for me as well. So it wasn't necessarily a big thing, and that was just one example, but it showed that they did something that wasn't just for themselves. So they're showing that they think of other people all the time too. In criteria 4, about your awareness of current social, economic and political issues. So the judges are looking for, how do you keep up to date with what's happening around you? And what are some of the issues happening right now? You could give an example of how you stay informed about current issues. List examples of these and how they affect you and others in your situation. Again, it's only if you know these things. Don't make things up that you don't understand. Not to be rude or anything, but I meant, be genuine about what you know. So a previous winner's example is, I subscribe to many industry publications. They keep me at the forefront of the latest industry trends. I regularly attend industry network events and trade shows where there are speakers and presenters on new products to the market. This allows me to keep up to date and current, as well to get to know the Sydney leaders are. So you can see that they didn't say, the trends are X, Y, and Z, and they know all these things. They just talked about what they knew and why they think it's important. In other pursuits, this is where the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nominees can also include information about their Aboriginal background, some of things about their community and what kinds of activities they're involved in that community. And it really is important, that community aspect in that nomination. So I really do hope that going through each of those criteria helped in writing your submissions, and that I was able to give you some good examples that you can use in the future. And I do wish you best, and I'll hand you back.
Thank you, Fran, for taking us through all those criteria in such detail. I'm now going to touch on the technicalities of submitting a nomination for the New South Wales Training Awards. These nominations are made through an online application system. You can access the nomination portal from the New South Wales Training Awards section of the Training Services New South Wales website, and the URL for that will be coming up just shortly. The system enables you to save your progress and work on your application in stages, so you can pick up where you left off last time, amending and adding as required before you actually submit the nomination. There are some important pointers before you start actually creating that submission. Firstly, please ensure you understand the rules and eligibility for your chosen award. Remember, with the individual awards categories, you should also check the region your nomination belongs to. All individual award category nominations are firstly assessed at the regional level, with the exception of the VET nominations are firstly assessed at the regional level, with the exception of the VET Trainer Teacher Award, which we have not covered today, but which is assessed at the state level. There is a link on the nominations page on the website which allows you to check the appropriate region for your nomination before you begin the online application. Please also read the New South Wales Training Awards terms and conditions carefully. And most importantly, ensure you submit your nomination before the closing date. So once you have submitted a nomination, what happens? As mentioned, the individual award category nominations are firstly judged at the regional level. So there are a number of phases involved before an individual is chosen to compete at the state level. After the application period closes, nominations for individual awards are sent to one of 10 regional committees in New South Wales. These committees assess nominations against the eligibility and selection criteria, and then these nominations are culled to come up with a short list of nominees for interview. Shortlisted nominees who are called to interview by the regional committees may be interviewed at the regional office, via video conference, or in the nominee's workplace, as convenient. Regional finalists are then selected and are invited to a New South Wales Training Awards presentation, which is usually held by each region in June, where a regional winner for each award category is announced. The various regional winners are then invited for an interview in Sydney, where they're assessed by a panel of VET judges in order to be shortlisted as finalists for the New South Wales Training Awards state event. The interviews for regional winners are usually held in mid to late July, and depending on the outcome of those interviews, a regional winner may then be shortlisted as a state finalist. State finalists are invited to attend the New South Wales Training Awards presentation event in Sydney, where the state winners in each category are announced. State winners in the individual categories then have the opportunity to go on to compete at the national level. As state winners, they go on as finalists to the Australian Training Awards, and you can find out more about the Australian Training Awards on our website. Now let's go to some of the questions that we have received. There's a few technical questions here that I will attempt to answer. One question that we've had through is, can an individual, i.e. a vet student or apprentice or trainee, can they nominate themselves? Basically, self-nomination is only possible in the vet trainer teacher category. But if you are a vet student, an apprentice or trainee, and you're interested and wish to participate in the awards, then by all means please contact your vet teacher or employer and ask them to nominate you. Another question we've had here, I'm of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander descent. Which award should I apply for? You can basically apply for any award where you meet the eligibility criteria. The choice is based on your personal preference, but you can also, as Fran outlined today, you can also address your Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander background in criteria 4 of the nomination questions. Another question, why are we not addressing the Vet Trainer Teacher Award category today? Basically, the fundamental approach to submissions is the same for the Vet Trainer Teacher Award. However, there are some specific criteria for that particular award, and our team are actually going to explore the possibility of running some webinars or a webinar covering this category next year. Okay, we've had here either an apprentice or a trainee who's written to us and asked, I completed my training contract sooner than I expected. Can I still be nominated? The best answer to that question is, if you are in any doubt about your eligibility, please contact the Training Awards team. You'll see on the screen there the URLs for both the Training Services New South Wales website, our Facebook page, and email and phone contact details for the Central New South Wales Training Awards team. Here's another question. How many awards can I apply for or be nominated for? In the individual category, you can only be nominated for one type of award. If you've been nominated for more than one award, we will contact your nominators to clarify which award will be selected. And another question from somebody who's obviously at the organisational level, so an employer or training provider. All the questions and criteria in the individual categories are aimed at the learners. How do I address this information? As Fran stressed to you in the beginning, the New South Wales Training Awards applications or nominations should always be completed in conjunction and working closely with the learner themselves. It's very, very important to be able to draw out that person's experience, and as Fran emphasised, to also bring in other perspectives from the other people that they have had involvement in their training and employment experience. So now we're going to move along to some more non-technical questions, which I'm going to put to Fran. So we have it here. Can we have another example for criteria 3?
Sure. I think one would be about the ability to represent the training area and how you'd encourage others. So an example I read in some of the previous submissions was, I constantly strive to better myself in my trade. I use any opportunity to learn and gain more experience. I believe I'm well positioned to represent the national training system, as I've come from the industry from a school-based apprentice, then an apprenticeship, and now I've got my trade qualification. I really am proof that if you come with a limited knowledge, but if you're dedicated and hardworking, you can achieve what you set out to do. So that's really lovely, a really lovely example of showing a pathway, but also showing why it's important. I thought another one would be in criteria 1 in career and study achievements, especially for the school-based apprentice and trainee. Because again, they're not necessarily in the workplace very much, so what do they draw on for experiences about what they're talking about? So again, it's about, with the previous winner's example, is being at TAFE was a totally different environment to school. I really got to see what it was like to be an adult learner. I was treated differently, and I really felt like I was seeing myself as a whole person, not just in the school group. It really helped me understand and help me in my school study as well as my work. I realised the importance of having education behind me, and one of the reasons why I actually chose to do an apprenticeship while studying at school as part of my HSC. I really feel like now I'm one step ahead of everyone else when it's time to graduate at high school. So again, it's a lovely story about why they've undertaken the studies and what they hope to gain from it. So yeah, there were 2 more examples I thought I'd share.
Thanks, Fran. I've actually got a question here that I can answer. We've had somebody write in and ask, can schools nominate a student this year? And yes, schools can nominate in the individual awards categories. The Veteran Schools Award and the School-Based Apprentice or Trainee Award are the 2 categories where schools are eligible to put forward nominations. Any other questions that we have coming through? It looks as if we might have addressed everything that people had to ask today.
I just forgot to give them shorthand lessons beforehand because they had to take on so much information in a very short period of time. But like we said, the recording will be available. I think it's early next week, and you'll be able to review it along with the presentation. So the resource is going to be available right up until the applications close. So I think that's a really great initiative from Training New South Wales.
Thanks, Fran. Yeah, look, we might close off there a bit early today. As Fran said, you will be able to access a recording of today's session from our website shortly. Don't forget there is a frequently asked questions section on our website as well. And please feel free to get in contact with our New South Wales Training Awards team at any time. Or for the individual awards categories, there is a contacts page in the New South Wales Training Awards section of our website, which has the contact details of your regional coordinator. Remember, don't put off starting on your application if you think you want to put forward a nomination. It always takes longer than you think, and you want to give yourself plenty of time to submit a quality nomination. So please get started as soon as you can. So that's it. Thank you very much for joining us and for your interest in the New South Wales Training Awards. We hope you found this webinar informative and worthwhile. All the best with those nominations. We look forward to receiving them. Thank you.